I was 81 years old before I understood what loneliness actually was. Not the word. I knew the word. Every woman in Kansas knew the word. We just did not think it applied to us. We were too busy, too needed, too surrounded by the noise of living to stop and hear what was underneath it. Loneliness does not arrive the way you think it will. It does not come when you are alone. It comes later, much later. It comes after the people are gone, after the house goes quiet, after you realize that all those years of being surrounded were not the same thing as being known. I did not understand that until it was too late to do anything about it. My name is Clara Adeline Marsh. I was born in 1848, outside a small town in eastern Kansas called Council Grove. My father broke that land with a mule and a borrowed plow. My mother had 7 children and buried 2 before they saw their 3rd year. I grew up understanding that life was labor and that sentiment was a luxury we could not afford. I married at 19. His name was Henry. We built a farm together out near Ellsworth and worked that land for 41 years. I raised 5 children. I preserved food, mended clothes, hauled water, tended sick animals, and buried a daughter at age 4 from a fever that came in the night and did not leave. I did all of this without complaint, because that was what a woman did. That was what strength looked like. I thought being needed was the same as being loved. I thought endurance was a kind of intimacy. I was wrong about all of it, and I am telling you this now because I can see you making the same mistakes. Not the same mistakes on the outside. Your life looks nothing like mine. But on the inside, the way you tell yourself you will have more time, the way you treat closeness like something you can postpone, the way you let pride sit between you and the people who matter, I recognize every bit of it. I did it for 60 years before I saw it clearly. And by the time I saw it clearly, most of the people I loved were dead. From November through March, sometimes April, the farm was cut off. You did not go to town. You did not see your neighbors. You sat in a house with your husband and your children, and you worked and you survived. There was nowhere to go, no one coming in, nothing to do but be together. I remember wishing for silence during those winters, wishing for 1 hour without a child pulling at me, without Henry coming in from the barn needing something. I got it, decades later. I got all of it, and it was nothing like what I had imagined. What I had imagined was rest. What I received was an absence so heavy it sat on my chest like a stone I could not lift. The quiet I had wanted when my children were young became something else entirely when they were gone. When Henry was gone. When the house was mine and I had nowhere I was needed and no one who would notice if I did not come downstairs. You think you want silence. You think you want more time to yourself. You think you want people to stop needing you so much. Be careful what you want. There may come a day when you receive it in full. Henry died in the spring of 1903. He was 58 years old. His heart simply stopped one morning. He was gone before the doctor arrived. I had lived beside that man for 35 years, and I will tell you something honest that took me years to admit. I did not know him. Not really. Not the way you can know a person when you have actually let them in. We had a good marriage by the standards of our time. We did not fight badly. We were not cruel. We did not drink or betray each other. By every measure that mattered in Ellsworth, Kansas, we were solid and respectable. But I had spent 35 years being strong next to that man, and never once shown him what frightened me. Never told him the full weight of what I lost when our daughter died. Never told him I was proud of him in words I actually meant. I thought he knew. I thought the way I kept his house and raised his children and stood beside him through drought and debt was enough. It was not enough. And I could not see what he felt either. We were two people who endured the same life without ever completely sharing it. When he died, I expected grief. I did not expect guilt. The guilt came slow and steady, because I kept thinking of all the things I had never said, the conversations we had not had, the evenings I had sat across from him in silence and told myself there was nothing to say, when the truth was I did not know how to start. Pride does not feel like pride when you are inside it. It feels like sense. It feels like keeping things steady. It feels like being the strong one. I thought I was strong. I was just far away from him. My eldest son, Thomas, went north to work the railroads when he was 22. He sent money when he could. His letters got shorter as the years went on. By the time he was 40, we saw him once a year, sometimes less. I told myself that was the way of things, that boys leave and build their own lives, and that is what you raise them to do. But I did not let myself believe what was also true, that my silence and severity and inability to show tenderness without immediately following it with correction had made it easier for him to go. That the way I raised him, capable, self-sufficient, not given to sentiment, was partly why he did not feel the pull to come back. I had made a son who could survive anything. I had not made a son who needed his mother. I thought that was a success. It took me 20 years to understand it was a loss. If you are raising children right now, and you are proud of how independent they are, hear this. There is a version of good parenting that accidentally makes you unnecessary, that produces capable adults who can go long stretches without calling because they were raised never to need anyone, including you. You can raise someone who is both strong and connected, who knows how to manage hard things and also knows how to come home. I did not know that then. I taught my children to endure and forgot to teach them to return. I had a sister. Her name was Miriam, 2 years younger. We grew up side by side, shared a bed until we married, knew each other the way only sisters who have weathered the same childhood know each other. We had a falling out when I was 37, a dispute over our mother's things after she died. Some words said that should not have been. I felt Miriam had been selfish and unjust. She felt the same about me. We were both probably right, and both probably wrong in equal measure. I wrote her a letter that was cold and proud. She did not respond. I decided that meant she was not sorry. I waited. She waited. The months became years. The years became a decade. 11 years of silence between sisters who had written to each other every week when we first married. Then I received word that Miriam was ill. I went to her. We sat together in her sick room and we wept and we said we were sorry and we held each other's hands. She died 6 weeks later. I had 11 years back with my sister. I chose 11 years of pride instead. If you have a silence between you and someone you love, I do not care how justified it feels, end it. Today. Not when you feel ready. Not when the right moment comes. Now. The right moment does not come for you. You make it or you lose it. I made mine 6 weeks before she died. Being useful is not the same as being loved. I was useful for my entire married life and all the years I raised my children. Relentlessly, tirelessly useful. The person who kept the house, kept the children healthy, kept the food preserved and the clothes mended, and the family moving through hard seasons. But there is a difference between being valued and being seen, between being needed and being known. I spent most of my life on the useful side of that line, and told myself it was the same thing. You can be surrounded by people who depend on you and still feel invisible. You can be the foundation of a family and feel more isolated than the loneliest person you know. I had convinced myself that a woman who was needed was a woman who was loved, that doing your duty with competence and without complaint was its own kind of intimacy. And then Henry died, and then the children went, and I sat in that house and felt the full shape of what my life had actually been. I had been present in everyone's life without ever being fully present in my own. I had defined myself by what I provided, and when there was no one left to provide for, I discovered I had not built much else. There is a kind of pride that women of my generation wore like armor. The pride of not needing, of not asking, of managing everything yourself and presenting a steady face no matter what was happening underneath. The woman who did not complain, who did not burden others. That was strength. That was virtue. I was that woman. And I will tell you what it cost me. It cost me the chance to be known. If you never show anyone what is actually happening inside you, they cannot know you. They know the surface, the capable face, the steady hands, the reliable presence, but not you. And after long enough, you stop knowing yourself. I had been so disciplined about not burdening anyone that I had slowly cut off my own access to the parts of myself that needed help. I could not ask for comfort because I had practiced not needing it. I could not reach out across the quiet years after Henry died and say to my children, "I am lonely. Come home. I need someone to sit at this table with me." The words would not form. A lifetime of self-sufficiency had made me a prisoner of my own image of strength. You think you are different. You talk more than my generation did. Feelings are discussed more openly in your world. Perhaps. But how many of you are right now managing something hard and telling no one the full weight of it? How many of you have a silence between you and someone you love that has grown so long neither of you knows how to cross it? How many of you are waiting for the other person to reach out first? How long have you been waiting? After 60, the world stops generating new relationships the way it once did. When you are young, you move constantly through places that put people in your path. Work, your children's lives, neighborhoods where you are new. All of it producing connection whether you seek it or not. After 60, those structures fall away. You are not new anywhere. The same faces, which have been thinning because age takes them, and if you have not built deep relationships in the years when the structures were doing the work, if you assumed the connections you had would maintain themselves, you find yourself in a silence with no mechanism for filling. Relationships require maintenance the way a fence requires maintenance. You cannot walk past the same fence for 20 years without touching it, and then be surprised when it falls down. I let mine go. I was too occupied. I told myself there was time. There is not always time. And the longer you wait to maintain what matters, the more of it falls down while you are not watching. 30 years I lived after Henry died. 30 years of mornings alone, of eating alone, sleeping in a bed made for two, sitting by a window watching a lane that no one came down. 30 years is not a small number. That is longer than my children's childhoods. I am not asking for your pity. I made the life I made. But those years taught me the most important thing I know. Loneliness in old age is not a surprise that arrives. It is something built, constructed slowly over decades out of small decisions that do not feel like decisions at the time. The choice not to reach out, the choice not to forgive, the choice to wait, the choice to stay proud when you could have been close, the choice to be useful instead of known. These choices accumulate, every one of them, and the accumulation produces the life you will live in your final years. Not the life you imagined, the actual life, built from what you actually did. You are building your old age right now, not in the abstract. Today, this week, who you reach out to, whether you say the true thing or the easy thing, whether you let the people you love know it in ways they can actually receive. These are the building materials of your final years. You will still be fully yourself when you are old. The mind does not dim the way the body does. You will still care. You will still want to be known, want to matter, want someone to sit across from you and actually see who you are. And if you have not built the relationships that can bear that weight, you will have all of that selfhood and no one to share it with. That is the loneliness I am warning you about, not the quiet, not the empty house. What you cannot survive easily is the feeling of being fully alive inside a silence that no one is listening to. I lived with that for a long time. Do not wait. Do not assume. Do not let pride make your decisions for you and call it dignity. Go toward the people who matter, now, while you still can, while they still can. That is all I know. It took me 80 years to learn it. You have less time than you think.